A high-stakes comeback on foreign soil. President Donald Trump is set to make a historic return to the Middle East with trillion-dollar deals on the table and the Gaza war casting a long shadow. Trump's visit to Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the UAE could redraw the region's power lines. But without a Gaza ceasefire or Israeli stopover, can Trump deliver peace? Or is this just about power, profit, and politics? U.S. President Donald Trump is set to head for Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates on May 12th, eyeing big business deals while Israel's war in Gaza and Iran's nuclear program will loom large over Trump's first major foreign trip of his second term. The White House said he looked forward to a historic return to the region. The president looks forward to embarking on his historic return to the Middle East, visiting Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates next week, where he will focus on strengthening ties between our nations. 8 years ago, President Trump's first trip was to this same region of the world, where he introduced his bold peace through strength foreign policy strategy. On that trip, the president laid out his goal of eradicating terrorism and extremism in the region, which he successfully accomplished over the course of his administration. With the total defeat of ISIS and the historic signing of the Abraham Accords. Now, 8 years later, President Trump will return to re-emphasize his continued vision for a proud, prosperous, and successful Middle East, where the United States and Middle Eastern nations are in cooperative relationships and where extremism is defeated in place of commerce and cultural exchanges. This trip ultimately highlights how we stand on the brink of the golden age for both America and the Middle East, united by a shared vision of stability, opportunity, and mutual respect. When Trump lands in Riyadh on May 13th, he will be greeted with opulent ceremonies, gilded palaces, and the prospect of $1 trillion in investments. But the raging war in Gaza has denied him one goal. He has long craved Saudi-Israel normalization. In Riyadh, Trump will meet the leaders of the 6 Gulf Cooperation Council states: Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, and Oman, as per Reuters. Behind the scenes, U.S. officials are quietly pressing Israel to agree to an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, one of Saudi Arabia's preconditions for any restart of normalization talks, said 2 Gulf sources close to official circles and a U.S. official. Trump's Middle East envoy, Steve Whitcomb, told an audience at the Israeli embassy in Washington this week that he expected progress on expanding the Abraham Accords, a set of deals brokered by Trump in his first term in 2020, as per Reuters. Under the accord, several Arab states, including the UAE, Bahrain, Sudan, and Morocco, recognized Israel. We think we will have some or a lot of announcements very, very shortly, which we hope will yield progress by next year. Wyckoff is expected to accompany Trump on his visit to the Middle East. However, opposition by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to a permanent stop to the war or the creation of a Palestinian state makes progress on similar talks with Riyadh unlikely, 2 sources told Reuters. Saudi Arabia does not recognize Israel as legitimate, meaning the Middle East's 2 most advanced economies and military powers do not have formal diplomatic ties. Supporters of normalizing relations say it would bring stability and prosperity to the region while countering Iran's influence. Trump pledged to bring peace to the Middle East as he ran for a second term, but that is proving to be elusive. On this trip, he will showcase a promise by Saudi Arabia to invest $600 billion in the United States over the next 4 years and pledges from the UAE to spend $1.4 trillion over 10 years. His negotiations in Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates will focus on a number of topics, including oil and trade, investment deals, the regional conflicts in Israel, Gaza, and Yemen, and negotiations over the Iran nuclear program, among other issues. But Trump's key goal is to come out of the region saying that he put America first, say observers. I think what he's clearly looking to get out of this is deals. The announcement of multiple multi-billion-dollar deals. Trump has already announced Saudi Arabia's commitment to invest $1 trillion into the U.S. economy and is hoping to secure big-ticket investments during the visit. That would be consistent with his America First policy of prioritizing domestic interests, Cook told The Guardian. Those countries may also seek access to advanced U.S. semiconductor exports, and Saudi Arabia will want to ink a deal on civilian nuclear infrastructure. Any U.S. support for a Saudi nuclear program was previously contingent on Saudi Arabia normalizing diplomatic relations with U.S. ally Israel. But that could change during this visit, according to media reports, citing sources with knowledge of the matter. U.S. Energy Secretary Chris Wright, during a visit to the kingdom in April, said that Saudi Arabia and the U.S. were on a pathway to a civil nuclear agreement, but that any further announcements would come from Trump himself. Negotiations between the United States and Iran about its nuclear future will also be a central agenda item for the trip. Tehran is close to developing a nuclear weapon, which Israel and some other Middle Eastern neighbors, including Saudi Arabia, strongly oppose. The Middle East trip is notable for the U.S. president's lack of plans to visit Israel, where Benjamin Netanyahu and his cabinet have floated plans to launch a larger invasion of Gaza and expel the Palestinian population there, in what critics have called a broad plan of ethnic cleansing. Israeli officials had hoped that Trump would include a stop in their country, but two administration officials told The Atlantic that Trump did not want to visit unless he had secured a Gaza ceasefire that he could tout. However, Trump's meeting with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman in Riyadh on May 13th is set to include Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas, Lebanese President Joseph Aoun, and Syria's de facto leader, Ahmed al-Shara. Arabic media reported on May 11th, citing an informed source who declined to be identified. Palestinian newspaper Al-Quds said the Saudi prince looks forward to Trump's agreement to the Saudi condition of establishing a Palestinian state. Well, you've got Trump had said in February that Saudi Arabia was no longer demanding Palestinian statehood as a condition for normalizing ties with Israel, a statement that at the time drew an urgent Saudi denial. The Guardian reported that the tour through the Middle East is largely a repeat of his first international trip in 2017, when he was vetted in the region as a transactional leader, eager to secure quick wins and capable of providing support for the regional monarchies, economic and geopolitical interests. Trump's Saudi trip is his first formal state visit and second foreign trip since his re-election. After attending the Pope's funeral in Rome, he will also visit Qatar and the United Arab Emirates. Beneath the showmanship of Trump's visits, diplomats say, lies also a calculated U.S. effort to reassert influence and reshape economic alignments in a region where Beijing, Washington's chief economic rival, has steadily expanded its foothold at the heart of the petrodollar system. Trump's first trip abroad in his first term also began in Riyadh, where he unveiled $350 billion in Saudi investments. Trump commands deep trust from the Saudi leadership rooted in the close ties during his first term, a period defined by large arms deals and steadfast U.S. backing for bin Salman. Even as global outrage erupted over the killing of columnist Jamal Khashoggi by Saudi agents in Istanbul, Saudi Arabia and its Gulf allies now plan to urge Trump to ease U.S. regulations that have increasingly deterred foreign investment, particularly in sectors deemed part of America's critical national infrastructure. 5 industry sources told Reuters. Reuters reported, citing sources that in meetings with U.S. officials, Saudi ministers will advocate for a more business-friendly climate, especially at a time when China is aggressively courting Gulf capital while countering China's economic rise may top Trump's foreign policy agenda. It won't be easy in Saudi Arabia. Since the launch of Vision 2030, China has become integral to the kingdom's plans, dominating sectors from energy and infrastructure to renewable. Yet with such a complicated tableau of economic and geopolitical interests in the region, there are questions about whether the Trump administration has the focus and the team to pursue a comprehensive policy in the region.